You're listening to The Windsor Report, Central Ohio's top drive time show on politics, policies, and personalities.
Hello, Americans. Welcome to hour number 2 of The Windsor Report. Jack Windsor here, Alan Rogers there. We're going to welcome her to the show for the first time. And if you're from this area, you've heard her name before. I'm talking about Bernadine Kennedy Kent. And she is running for election to the Ohio House of Representatives to represent District 3. She's on the ballot in the general election scheduled for November 3rd, 2026. And she does have a challenger, and we'll talk about him in just a moment. But without further ado, welcome to the show. How are you, Ms. Kent?
I'm great. I am great. I'm great, Jack. I appreciate you giving me this opportunity to be on your show. This is very exciting. You know, I come from the radio age, so this is wonderful for me.
You know, I hope radio never goes out of fashion. Sidebar, and I won't get us too far into the weeds, but
Amen.
I grew up listening to the Cleveland Indians.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, again, my name is Bernadine Kennedy Kent, and I am running for the Ohio District 3. I'm on the ballot, as Jack said, November 6th. But what most people probably don't know about me is that I was in the State House from 2017 to 2020 as a Democrat, and I am now running as a Republican. And I was very excited to have been elected. There's nothing more honorable than to have the people elect you into office. So when I did get elected into office, it was really interesting that I was told it's absolutely impossible. You're a Democrat. This is a majority Republican House and Senate. You'll never be able to get a bill passed, and yada, yada, yada. And I honestly am not a person that really necessarily believes that type of talk. I believe that if you bring something to the table, that both parties can work on it together because they're working on behalf of the constituents. So when I got into the House, I brought a bill that came about from my own experience. It had to do with abused children, because after I left the teaching field and administrative field in the school system, I became an advocate for families. And one of the families had about 5 children in it, and I felt that they were being abused because there were multiple calls of domestic violence to their home. So I'm not understanding why the children weren't removed. So I got the 911 calls to this home, and I heard the dispatcher asked, is there a weapon in the home? But they didn't ask if there were children in the home, which I thought was interesting, because I think that if you're around domestic violence, that in a way is abusive for children. Yeah. So when I got to studying it, and I'm like, I'm surprised that police would not call children's services, I came to find out that Ohio was the only state in which we did not have law enforcement as mandated reporters. So lo and behold, when I got to the State House, I introduced that bill. And a long story short, it became a law, and that was in my first term. And they actually called that just a lightning bill, because I was a single person to introduce it. And it got through a Republican House and Senate, and that has just never happened. So it was very, very exciting. But that's really a lesson for people that we really can work across the aisles and together if what we're doing is for everyone.
Yeah, and I'm really glad you said that. I'm going to add a little bit of commentary here, and then I'm going to get into this opponent issue, or the issue that your opponent might have. But I'm really glad you said what you said. Alan and I just spent the first hour talking about the divisiveness, and really, it's a shame that the attitude right now is orange man bad, and if you're on that team, you're bad, you're evil, you don't have good policy ideas, and if you're on the team on the left, you're a communist, and you don't have good. We have to somehow get back to a place where the adults occupy the room, and we have discussions on policies, and we stop paying attention to the talking heads or the bloggers that pretend to be news outlets that only put out defamatory things about candidates and other journalists and all the other crap. So I'm really glad that you are telling your story as someone who was a Democrat, who went in and got an important piece of legislation over the finish line because it was good policy. And that's really what it should be about. You're
Correct.
on the ballot in November against Representative Mohamed. Say in your own words, what are you running for and why this district?
Well, I definitely want the opportunity to actually be in the State House again to try to get even more bills passed that I believe will be important to my district and really to the people of Ohio, period. I believe very strongly in that. And I also believe that being in that position is just very important because we are passing laws. And I want to do that. I'm a very big advocate for children, and I'm a very big advocate for tax dollars. I cannot stand it when my money is wasted or defrauded or abused with these programs. So I'm very, very big on that. That's one of the things I pretty much am known for also. I was a whistleblower on Ohio Department of Education,
Yes.
No Child Left Behind program. So I'm just very big on people. I feel like it's coming out of my pocket. Not everybody feels that way, but I feel like you're just really taking it out of my pocket because I earned it, I have a right to it, and you don't. So I'm very strong on that. I don't claim to know everything. That's one of the things. I feel also that even without the title, Jack, whether I'm in that state house or not in that state house, I'm still going to do the work of the people. And I just think that when people, when they talk about their elected officials, you don't really know who they are until you ask them to do something.
That's right.
And then that's when you know a lot about who they are. So I always tell people, if you want something done and you feel your elected officials are the ones that are the oversight or they're responsible for that, go on and ask them. And then you'll know very quickly whether you should be voting for them the next time or voting for the people at all if they've never done anything for the community.
Yeah, amen to that. Only about a minute here, talking with Bernadine Kennedy Kent, running for election to the Ohio House to represent the folks in District 3. And literally only a minute. Let's tease it on this side, and then we'll dive into it next segment. You've been down the road of digging into public money before. You just talked about it, the Columbus schools, tutoring fraud that you blew the whistle on to the FBI. What made you start, in 45 seconds, pulling Representative Mohamed's committee's campaign finance reports?
Well, actually, it was Jim Jordan had held a hearing with Luke Rosiak, who had been looking into Medicaid fraud in a number of buildings. And so when I saw the excerpt, but I'm like, I'm going to look at his, campaign reports. And when I looked at his campaign reports, he had not done his pre-primary. So that hearing was on June 3rd, and I had to wait to June 23rd. And so when he finally filed them, I looked at it and I was amazed that his $97,000 that was left over from 2024 cycle was nowhere to be seen. It was now zero. So, of course, that angered me because that is under the law. That is one of our responsibilities. That's one of the things that voters look at, is to see whether what your campaign reports look like, who's donated to your campaign, and what you've done with your money.
That is exactly right. $97,137.82 to be precise. We're going to talk about that more with Bernadine Kennedy Kent. Bernadine Kennedy Kent, candidate for Ohio House of Representatives to represent District 3, and she has an opponent in this November 3rd election, and we're talking about Mr. Mohamed right now. In case you missed it, she has a penchant for making sure that people are doing what they're supposed to do, particularly when money is involved. And she decided to take a look after Luke Rosiak shared some information with Jim Jordan at Mr. Mohamed's campaign finance reporting. And so I guess we'll start back there where the records start. The committee's 2024 post-general report filed December 13th, 2024. And I guess walk us through that a little bit. The amount forwarded, the contributions, the other income, the balance. What do we know?
Well, that's the great thing about, reports, and that's the purpose. And when I saw the 2024, and I saw he had 97,000, and I don't remember the exact numbers, and thank you for saying the exact numbers, Jack, but it was approximately the $97,000. And when Jim Jordan did the hearing, I was very interested in knowing how he had spent it, or for the 2024 2026 pre-primary. I was very interested in that. But when I looked, he hadn't filed his pre-primary report. So I had to pretty much look every day for the next 20 days. And then he finally filed it on June 23rd, I believe it was, and it was like 2 months late, which is also very, very surprising. So when I looked at it, I could not believe that the amount he carried over was zero. So I'm like, well, wait a minute, where's the approximately $97,000? And then he said he only got $1,000 in donations, which would be very surprising for a third termer. And then he said he spent $2,500, which is $1,500 in what he had. And then he mistakenly put down that he still had money left. So the math was not even correct on the pre-primary report. So, of course, it's like, where is it? So I really kind of tried to wait and see, well, maybe he will reconcile it, in the next week, the next month. But no, here we go, where I'm waiting for the post-primary report, which is going to be almost 3 months overdue, and it's still not been filed. And so I decided to go on and file a complaint on August 9th with the Secretary of State and explain that what's going on here, where is this money? We as a public, when we vote on these candidates, we deserve to know or be able to see that campaign report. That's the whole purpose of being able to see it, is that we as voters can look. And I would be concerned about anyone that appears to not be able to file something on time, and especially one that's running for the third time. It's not like it's something new. So to me, it's just a big question mark as to what happened to this money.
So lots of reporting that needs to be filed. And, there are two reports, the 2025 annual and the 2026 pre-primary you talked about. Both were filed on the same day, it appears. And you said that was 2 months late, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And so they were due by a certain time, I think, under Ohio law. So let me just, before we speculate, let me just ask a dumb question from someone who filed these reports herself over the years. What does this say to you? I mean, is this a common thing?
No, it's not common. It's not common at all. Most of us file our reports on time. So no, it's not common, and it's just not common in this situation because he's a third timer.
Yep.
And he's an attorney. Oh. So it's like, you're an attorney.
So
where are your ethics?
And so when you look, there are gaps, right? You can look at 2024, what was carried over, what wasn't, 2025, 2026. But it appears to me, and I was trying to do the math, and the math ain't mathin', as they say. And so right. I'm looking at about $93,700. Where did it go? Have you seen any expenditures on that regarding that money?
No.
Okay. Okay. So let me just ask another dumb question. A couple of minutes. If somebody can't account for $93,000 from election contributions that didn't carry over, and they don't have expenditures, I mean, I can understand somebody's like, well, why would I have expenditures? I carried over $0. Okay, but you had $97,137.82, and that doesn't seem to be accounted for. So, I mean, $93,000 that you cannot account for. I'm not an attorney, but that seems like a big deal.
Right, it's not chump change. It's not chump change. And those people that donated, here I go back to my taxpayers. In fact, my husband has said it. Those people that donated to you, they pay taxes.
That's right.
And they trusted you. And they gave you their hard-earned money because they believed in you. And to me, what disrespect for, first of all, not to be there anymore, and secondly, for you not to file.
Okay, so again, not mathing. 2026 pre-primary report: $0 forward, $1,000 in contributions, $2,500 in expenditures. I'm doing that math out loud. That just doesn't work. You can't take money from something that doesn't have money. Right. So, I mean, okay, literally 30 seconds here, and then we're going to keep you, obviously, but. Has he responded to this at all? Is he aware that this complaint has been filed that you know of?
I have no idea whether he's aware of it or not, but I don't know if he's aware. All I know is that I continue to wait on the post-primary report, and I continue to wait to see him reconcile where all this money went. And I am very, very, very disappointed that we're going on 3 months now for the post-primary.
Bernadine Kennedy Kent is here too, and we've saved the document everybody's going to be talking about for this segment. And I really do appreciate, Bernadine, you sticking around and talking with me and the listeners. Can we get to Exhibit D in your complaint that you filed with the Secretary of State's office? Is that fair game or no?
All of it's fair game.
All right, good. So Exhibit D in your complaint is I think it's called a DTE 100, a real property conveyance fee form from Delaware County. It looks like the date is October 2025. For folks who've never seen one, what is that form and what does this one show?
Okay, if you don't mind, I'll go back just a little bit, Jack.
Yeah, let's do it.
Well, for me, I also wanted to know, okay, what is someone or why would someone not have that $97,000? In my mind, you're doing something with $97,000 because it's a lot of money. So I don't really quite know what made me look, but probably because I went down to where Ismail was supposed to be living, and, he was living in these apartments, small apartments, and I was just kind of surprised. So I began to look to see if he owned a home. So I looked in Franklin County property and put in his name and didn't get anything. And then I went to Delaware because a friend gave me a tip, and I went to Delaware, and lo and behold, Ismail Mohamed had purchased a $587,000 property in Delaware, Ohio. Mm-hmm. I was just shocked. And so I looked at it, and I noticed on the property there is an owner-occupancy. And so that form that you have is a DTE 100, and I needed to request that form because I wanted to see what that form looked like and whether he had said yes to the question that if you get this owner occupancy, which means that you get a reduced property tax the first and second half of the year, if you say that you are going to be the principal, that address and home is going to be your principal living place.
That's right.
And so I saw from the form that they had a representative, and his name was one of the names in the grantees, and there was that yes box checked. And underneath the person that signed, it is basically signed under the, threat of perjury, if all of this is not true, that you will start living in this property January 1st, 2026. So when I got that, one of the other things I noticed was that there was a $58,700 down payment on that home. And I thought that was a big piece of change.
Say that number again. What was the down payment, Bernadine?
$58,700.
Yeah, that's 10%. But okay, that's a lot of money. Sorry, another dumb question. How much do lawmakers make in the state of Ohio, on average?
$72,000. Okay. $72,000.
So buying a half, and that it's over $500,000 property, correct? On a $70-some thousand salary. Okay.
Correct.
Okay, keep going. Sorry.
Almost $11,000 in property tax. I mean, this is and it probably have HOA fund, that you have to pay. This is a lot of money, and it's just a huge, absolutely beautiful home. And but it was shocking to me. I was just blown away. And so for me, I am not accusing Ismail Mohamed, but I do want someone to look into whether that $58,700 came from the campaign funds.
And to be fair, you're not asserting that the campaign funds were used for the purchase. So I'm going to say that straight to listeners. But it's important that record is in the complaint. So I guess a couple minutes here still in this segment. Walk through your request to the Secretary of State one at a time if you can, and we've got another segment if we need it. What are you asking Frank LaRosa's office to determine here?
Well, first I'm asking, I personally feel that we need some type of explanation, and we definitely need some type of explanation because he's running for office right now. And I feel like before anyone casts one vote for this man, that he needs to reconcile. He needs to have a post-primary report, and he needs to reconcile where that approximately $97,000 went.
That's right.
That needs to happen. And so that's my expectation from the Secretary of State's office. We need to know that. Because he's obviously, in my mind, thinking, okay, well, first month's passed, second month's passed. I don't have to do anything. But no, it's not all right. And we need to know before anyone casts one vote for him.
Yeah. Well, okay, so all issues aside, not filing reports on time, $97,000 he needs to account for, period. And then there's this other issue of $500,000 home, $50,000 plus down in cash. Okay, just answer for it, right? That's what we're asking. And I'm certain that's what the Secretary of State will ask about or inquire about. So what's the process from here? Where does a complaint like this go? I mean, obviously it goes to Secretary of State's office. Are there timelines? And what should Ohioans watch for? Do you have any pulse on that?
Well, I don't have any pulse on that. My understanding that is pending, but I've really made myself clear that we need to know before anyone casts a vote. So that's my timeline to the Secretary of State's office.
Yep.
I am saying to them, this is a law. This is not something that he can not do, or which is file these reports. This is not something he can not do, reconcile these reports and say where this money is. This is not something he cannot do. This is required under the law. And of course, being a former lawmaker, and all of us should be respecting the laws of our state. And he is obviously not doing that. And let me say one other thing that to me was also, because I also filed a complaint with the Board of Election as to his voter registration and his residency, as to, where is he living? Because if he's not living in our district, And that form he signed, or his representative signed, he's signing that and swearing that he is going to be living in the home in Delaware. So he can't live in two different places.
So either,
so I feel like,
I was just going to say either he is running to represent the wrong district, or he signed an attestation and shouldn't have, right?
Correct.
Okay.
And you're voting from that address of the apartment. Well, how are you voting from that address when you live in Delaware?
Bernadine Kennedy Kent, Republican nominee for Ohio House District 3. Tell voters before we go where they can find you. 20 seconds.
Okay, you can find me. You could actually Google me. I come up all the time. But my website is KennedyKentForOhio.com. KennedyKentForOhio.com. It's not going to be the last time we hear from Ms. Bernadine Kennedy Kent, Republican nominee for Ohio House District 3. Thank you for unpacking all this today. We'll do a follow-up. Thank you.
Bernadine Kennedy Kent, who is now a Republican, used to be a Democrat in the state house, and she's running for state house again in Ohio House District 3. And if you missed any of the previous 3 segments, make sure to go search them out, 989theanswer.com, or wherever you get your podcasts, Spotify, iTunes. It'll be there. You're going to want to hear this story because there will be follow-up, because Ms. Kent is running against Ismail Mohamed, the Democrat who is seeking re-election to the Ohio House in District 3, 3-termer, as she said, and there's $97,000 that has not been accounted for in campaign finance contributions. And then there's this peculiar form that shows the purchase of a $500,000 property and a signature under attestation that is a primary residence. And by the way, that residence, according to Bernadine, would be outside the bounds of the district that Mr. Ismail Mohamed is running for re-election in. And there's a 10% down payment, $50,000 plus in cash. And she's not saying that the money from the campaign was used, but she's saying the money from the campaign doesn't show expenses to get it down to zero. And it appears he's purchased a house in a different district and put a lot of cash down. So show me the money, as Alan just said. So great segment with Bernadine Kennedy Kent. We absolutely will be following up on that information and filing some record requests and probably writing some stories. Speaking